Namaste everyone, welcome to Advaita Vedanta Satsang House. Today is Guru Purnima, so special Guru Purnima greetings, especially to Bindoji and to everyone. The ongoing sessions are on Bhagavad Gita offered by Bindoji. It's from an Advaita perspective. We are on chapter 6, room number 11. So the previous rooms are available. You can access them as replays in Clubhouse, so you can go to the links shared in the chat. The Advaita Retold YouTube channel is a very useful source, very logged. There are two other sources, the Apple Podcast and the Spotify. If you're familiar with those platforms, those are also available. There is also a book penned by Artemisia, which is based on Bindoji's insights into Advaita, which is an excellent companion reading material. The title of the book is Imaginary Door, published on Amazon platform, and it's available for purchase there. When the sessions are on, I'll be closing chat and hand raising. And once Bindoji is completed his class, then we will open up those channels for any follow-up questions or clarifications. As always, thank you very much, Bindoji. Over to you.
Thank you, Prakash. Namaste and Hari Om to all of you. And pranams to all the gurus in the Parampara on the Guru Purnima day. Let us remember the gurus who have passed on this tradition to us, because of which we stand blessed. Ho Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyo Vamsha Rishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Logashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashikritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murtibeda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Gita Dhyana Shlokam. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudramarutaha Tunvandi Divyaistavai Vedai Sangapadakramो Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogino Yasyandam Navidussura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Oh. Yesterday's class, we started the truth of meditation or dhyana in our series of verses which we have been going through. The question can come to the mind of everyone. Is this method of meditation or dhyana, yoga, what has been mentioned by Gita in this 6th chapter, which started with how the seat has to be and how the process of meditation need to be conducted. Is this something which I need to practice every day until my death? Or is it something which I cannot live without? These questions can come in the mind of people. Krishna is answering that very aspect in the next verse which we are going to do today. But before that, just a recap of what we discussed yesterday so that the continuity is maintained. So yesterday's verse was Yatra Uparamate Chittam, means Yatra means in that state of affairs of meditation or yoga. Chittam Uparamate. This andakarana or our inner instruments of cognition, mind, intellect, etc. Uparamate feels transcended the happiness, the happiness which is being felt in the andakarana. When yoga sevaya niruddham, by performance of this yoga or meditation, when restrained, the same instrument which we are now using for external cognition, perception, understanding, knowing, emoting, etc., the same instrument turns inward. But it turns inward, certainly it does not have the multiplicity, the various nature in which it can get carried away, reveling in the world of objects and the contents. When it doesn't have anything else, the same instrument of cognition becomes pure, because when you do not have multiplicity, when you do not have more the otherness in it, it becomes the pure one. So that is the andakarana which is mentioned as atmana, as the instrument. Atmanam pasyan. Pasyan means to see or to realize. The instrument now realizes the self. The self of what? I didn't deal with this aspect yesterday. The self of what? The moment we say self, atma, or something like that, the tendency for this instrument, which is now become pure, turning inward, that same instrument is habituated to objectify and look for the content for the thought. Because we do not have a capacity normally to know the nature of the instrument through which we know the other things. The buddhi or the andakarana can know things outside or even our internal emotions, feelings and thoughts, or the world of objects outside. In the buddhi, what happens is that it has contents with which it is able to apprehend. But it doesn't have the capacity to apprehend itself. So does the intellect or mind develop a potency to know itself? Yes, it can. That is what the yoga is all about. When it is turned inward means it is not something which is a focused light which is looking outward now turned inward, something like that. No. When it is meant it is turned inward means the potency with which we are knowing the objects of worlds or outside, or the emotions, feelings, thoughts, etc. in the instrument itself. Now, without a object or a content for thinking, looks at the very process or the means with which it is knowing. When the mind or the intellect, I use the word both mind and intellect the same way. So when the instrument develops the capability to know the process through which knowing takes place, is what is called the looking inward or turning inward. Here the word used is passion, remains realizing. When we are looking at our, let me not go to the world outside, within ourselves. When we are knowing emotions, feelings and thoughts within ourselves, the emotions, feelings and thoughts are reactions of the mind triggered by an event or an object or a person which is outside, which has come in contact with us by our sense organs. Somebody speaking something or we seeing something, etc. That triggers the mind to react. And when the mind reacts, it can react only as emotions, feelings and thoughts. So that is an agitation in the mind. Agitation in the sense not anger or anything. It is a vibration or a spandanam in the mind. It can be good emotions, bad emotions, feelings, good, bad, thoughts, good, bad. But they're all reactions of the mind. But how does the mind decide to react? Because the memory feeds the mind the evaluating data. I like the person or I don't like the person, or I like the sentence, I don't like the sentence, which will be in the chitta or the memory as a data bank available with us, which we have developed over a period of time, which we have stored, including to the effect, the memory as who we are. The moment I am having a memory that I am a fat person and somebody talks body shaming sentence, I am fat, or about my fat appearance, that statement heard through the ears, when reaches the mind is fed by the data from the memory that I have already developed as that I am a fat person, and this statement is related to my body shape. And that I am the body is also a part of the memory. And not only I am the body, my body is fat, and the statement is about my fat body, when these all get accumulated in the mind or converges in the mind becomes agitated. This agitation is the reaction with which the mind is responding. Either we will feel bad, feel sorry, sad inside, where we cannot react externally. If we can react externally by scolding the person who talks like that, or reprimanding the person who we are talking like that, that is triggered by the mind again. In all these process, now I have told only the negative aspect. It can be the positive thing also. Somebody talking about a good thing about me can also be a trigger where I will say happy about it and thank you. I will reciprocate and be having a feeling, elated feeling within myself. These all things are happening in our inner instrument, Andakarana. But what we do not know in the whole process, that there is something which is inherent, permanent, in good, bad, ugly, whatever may be the situation, that is why it is said permanent. Unaffected by the memory, the reaction, the thoughts and all those things, but without which we are not able to either know the statements coming to us, nor know the reaction of the mind, nor will we be able to act based on our reaction. That which gives the inner instrument the potency or the nature to be what it is never known to the inner instrument. The reason is that it has not turned inward, or it has never got an opportunity, or never it was trained to look at who or what that is. So what happens is that this is exactly what we studied in the Kathopanishad. Our sense organs were created, including the mind, to look things outwardly. Only when we reverse the capacity of the inner instrument to know itself, or to understand itself, to realize itself, or to measure itself, or to understand the process of knowing. Because when we are in the deep sleep, nothing of this sort happens. We are there very much. Even when we are sleeping and having a dream experience, and we are sleepwalking, or in our sleep dream we talk loudly, the person who is seeing us sleeping and talking in the sleep tells us something, we will not hear it. They may ask, what are you talking? Or whom are you talking to? We may not hear that statement. So the connection between the sense organ and the inner instrument is not necessary for the inner instrument to react. In the dream, it reacts. But in the dream also, the inner instrument, it projects objects, it cognizes, apprehends objects, and it reacts. But what happens in the deep sleep? In the deep sleep, the inner instrument is present, but it doesn't know it is present. Because the habit of it is to look for triggers from outside. Outside means outside of the inner instrument itself. So when we wake up from the deep sleep, we say, I knew nothing. That knowing nothingness is the inner instrument, but the nothingness is the triggers from outside. So what happens in a meditation? We are not in our deep sleep. See, the difference to understand between the deep sleep and meditation or yoga or dhyana is very important. Then only we will know what these verses are saying when that the inner instrument is seeing itself, realizing its own nature, remains in a state of bliss. When the statement is made, Atmana Atmanam Pashyan Atmani Tushyati. That is the statement which the verse is making. To understand that, the difference between the deep sleep and the meditation is important. If we can have a glimpse of a happiness when otherness is not there in our deep sleep, where the capacity for us to know anything is not there, what will be the happiness when the capacity to know the absence of anything else other than itself in full awakening state is multifold. Because in the absence of knowing itself, we were happy. Because of the deep sleep, we know. We say that I had good sleep. I feel relaxed and rejuvenated. I was happy because there is nothing, no worries, nothing mattered for me at that time. If that is the happiness which is when the instrument is totally non-apprehending things, the same instrument, Antakarana, is fully awake in meditation, but it is not apprehending the otherness which otherwise it is trained to, but the otherness is measured by that instrument, now starts measuring itself as the other. That is why Atmana, by that instrument, Atmanam itself, Pashyan, realizing itself. So it is not objectifying itself, the subject knowing the subject itself. That is the location where it says Atmani Tushyati. He realizes the bliss in itself. Now, Krishna takes us in the next verse a level higher from this. Here he introduced saying that the inner instrument knowing itself remains happy by in itself or in itself. But what is that? That is what in the next verse he goes to that. Sukham atyantikam yad buddhigrahyam atindriyam veti yatra cha evam yatra na chaivayam titaschalati tattvataha. The prose order is yattat atyantikam buddhigrahyam, that absolute happiness which is apprehensible by the buddhi. Atindriya sukham, which is beyond the senses. Yatracha ayam yogi tat sukham veti. Wherein this meditator or yogi knows or realizes that happiness. Yatracha stitaha san tattvataha na chalati eva. And wherein having established in the happiness, having stood established, he does not at all waver from the truth. Tattvataha. Let us look at each of the words because each word has got intended meanings. Therefore, we will go by the words, analyzing them. Sukham. The typical meaning of the word sukham is happiness. Bliss. Or at a state of comfort or ease. The object experienced in a state of meditation is what is indicated here, intended meaning. Not a happiness otherwise which we are familiar with. The reason being, the next word is atyandikam. Anda means end. Andikam means until the end or to the end. Atyandikam means beyond. Ati antikam. Going beyond all limits of happiness or boundless qualitative happiness. It is not a quantitative happiness. Because there is no other happiness which you can compare and quantify it, saying greater than that happiness or less greater than the other happiness. No. It is a pure qualitative happiness, incomparable, either by quantity or quality. Yattat, which that now is being referred to that sukham or that quality, the boundless happiness which is being referred is buddhigrahyam. It is apprehensible to the inner instrument. When Krishna said that, it is buddhigrahyam. This boundless happiness of the known, as incomparable with any other sukham or any other happiness, is not something which is utopian or not available to us. He says is buddhigrahyam. Buddhigrahyam means apprehensible to the buddhi or the intellect or the inner instrument. Here buddhi means inner instrument. This happiness is known by the instrument of cognition of our own nature, with which we know everything else. The same instrument with which we know everything else is now knowing the boundless happiness which is beyond quality and quantity. To make it more clear, he is using the next word, atindriyam. Indriyam means senses. Indriyam means for the senses. Atindriyam means transcending the capacity of the sense organs. That means whatever can be measured by our sense organs is not the happiness what is being apprehended by the inner instrument in the state of meditation. That is why it is said it is boundless, incomparable. There is no qualitative or quantitative measure with which we can define it. Not only that, what does he say is that Veti, the real Sanskrit meaning of the word Veti is knowing, understanding. But buddhigrahyam atindriyam Veti is to make a positive affirmation that the nature of the instrument itself being the instrument of apprehension cannot escape knowing it. From the state of meditation, this is the culmination where the happiness sukham, veti, is knowing that state in which the happiness is the very nature of that instrument with which it is being known. Therefore, the Atman or the self is the very inner instrument. That is why we keep on saying I am, that I amness when we are saying, it is the inner instrument which is saying the statement of I am. But it is under the ignorance or the cloud of Ajnana Samshaya Viparya, ignorance, misunderstanding, non-apprehension, etc. And therefore we say, I am the human being, I am the body. But when we know that the body is known, therefore the knower of the body cannot be the body, the my humanness is a quality of the body, therefore that also I cannot be, because it is a nature of the body which I am calling it as humanness. I am a human being. So the I amness without a content to it as an object, because everything else we relate it to the body, the possessions, the nature of the body, the color of the the physical apparatus, the body, mind, intellect complex. Everything is knowable to us. Therefore, what is knowable cannot be the known. In the meditation, when we know the instrument, when it is looking for its own nature, who it is or what is, it is knowing itself. And that knowing is what is now is called as the Veti. The knowing that occurs in the state of meditation through the same instrument of knowing as its own nature. Atmana Atmanam Veti. And it is Buddhigrahyam, means it is knowable. Atindriyam means it is beyond the known sensory perception. Sensory perception, both external and internal. Internal sensory perceptions are emotions, feelings and thoughts. External sensory perceptions is the empirical world. So both the empirical world and the internal world is not what its nature. At the same time, it is knowable and it is the nature of happiness. Boundless happiness, because there is nothing other than that. Yatra na cha eva ayam sthitaha chalati tattvataha. Now, this one, it is to be read as a statement, because yatra means in that state, or wherein, or in which state of knowing. Cha is and, eva means indeed. I am, this one or he, refers to the yuktaha yogi. The yogi, the realizer, or we, when we do meditation, we are the one which is being said, referred here as I am. Stitaha means having firmly established, having stood, established or stationed in the state of yoga or in the state of meditation. Na chalati tattvataha. Chalati means moves, stirs, deviates or wavers or discards or moves away. Tattvataha. Tattvataha means thatness or the truth what it is. Knowing the nature of the andakarana, internal instrument, as the happiness, which is the thatness of the nature of the inner instrument, then there is no moving away. Just as today we do not move away from our ignorance that I am a human being, it is a misapprehension of mind or a ignorance of mind that I am the body, even though when I know that my body is an object of knowledge for me, the knowing principle, when it knows itself as boundless happiness because the absence of otherness, in the state of meditation, once having realized that, he cannot forget his nature. Just as I am not forgetting my humanness in the waking, I am not in a condition to forget who I am, because that is the truth. Right now, I do not know the truth. Somebody asked me who am I? I do not know who I am. I definitely say I am not the body, mind, intellect complex, because I have learned how to objectify body, mind, intellect. But I do not know who I am. When I do this yoga or this meditation, and when my instrument is now tuned, turned inward to know itself, that is the time when my andakarana starts knowing who I am. Because it is the andakarana or inner instrument which is saying who I am. It is my intellect which is saying I am the body-mind complex. It is the same instrument now negates that I am not the body-mind intellect, because it is objectifiable. When the body-mind intellect says that it is objectifiable and I am not the body-mind intellect, who I am cannot be known unless it starts looking itself at itself. This is what the meditation taught us. When Krishna said that, to turn inward, looking itself, abandoning all the sensory inputs, both internal and external. That is the truth of the andakarana itself, of the buddhi itself. Therefore, the buddhi or the instruments knows its own nature. That is the time when my instrument of knowing learns to know how it is knowing or what is knowing without a content but of its own nature. The knowing is knowing itself. That is why the Atmanam Veti. We have to do a lot of Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana to turn this instrument or to make this instrument capable of knowing itself. That process itself is called Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. Shravana is what we have heard from this explanation. Manana is the method in which we ascertain in our inner instrument by negating what it is not matching with what we have heard. the more we negate, that is what is called nididhyasana, the affirmation or the confirmation or the conviction. Who I am when I am convinced I am, that awareness with which I am being aware of everything, including the very existence of my own. When that awareness is known by me, how can I say that I am not awareness? I am the knowing principle itself. That knowing principle, I call it as Sukham, because there is no otherness to share it, compare it, bring any comparison. In knowing, there is no comparison. Knowing is always pure. Therefore, I am stitaha chalati tatna chalati tattvataha. From having established, there is no going back. Krishna has said that this pairing of buddhigrahyam and adindriyam defines this happiness through double negation or double specification. Positively saying that it is accessible to the refined mind or intellect or intelligence. At the same time, negating that it is not what the senses are bringing in. The real happiness exists in the space between the sensory access and the intellectual abstraction. The moment it is going into an abstraction by the intellect, it is the functionality of externalizing. And what is being brought by the sensory inputs to the intellect, it is the receptor where the abstractions starts in between. So you have the input and you have the output. But that which remains in between the input and the output, which knows both the input and the output, that means what is being said to us and what is our reaction. There is the middle ground or the space between the two. That is the tattva, the reality that truly is. Not as it appears by the intellect, not as it is conventionally understood by us as the knowing of the intellect, but as it's essentially and irreducibly the very nature of knowing. So when the verses were formed, first it said, Niriddham Chittam Uparamate. The inner instrument comes to rest. That is the time Atmana Atmanam Pachyan Atmani Tushyadi. The self sees itself. The self is not separate from the very chitta. Because Atyantigam Buddhigrahim Atindriyam Sukham Veti. That whole process is happening at the inner instrument. Knows absolute buddhi apprehensible transsensory happiness of its own nature. Titva tattvataha na chalati. Established. In that middle ground where the input and output are not happening. The inner instrument does not waver from the reality or its own nature. So the four yatra which is specified together forms a complete phenomenology of yoga siddhi state or the meditation state. From its cognitive foundation, chitta at the rest, Atman recognizing, through its experiential quality, absolute and transsensory happiness, to the ontological stability of irreversible establishment in reality. So the Atman through the self-luminous, self-evident, is not normally recognized by the jiva because the buddhi or the inner instrument faculty through which its recognition occurs is tendency-wise impure because of the wrong identification or a direction. Because it always wants a content for its knowing. But it can know the knowing itself was never trained for the inner instrument. But when the buddhi becomes vishuddha, pure by the yoga seva, it becomes perfectly transparent to the Atman's self-luminosity. What is that? The Atman needing no faculty other than itself to know itself. Therefore, the Atman and the Buddhi, we cannot say they are different. They are one and the same. Therefore, it recognizes itself through its transparent or the reflective nature, its own true nature. Not as an object presented in the content of the intellect, but as the very light with which every content is known. Knowing the light which illumines everything. Yatra suryo na bhati na chandratarakam nema vidyuto vanti kutoyam agni tameva vandam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. That verse we are very familiar that. The sun is known. The knower of the sun knows what with which it is knowing the sun. The sun cannot shine it, nor the lightning, nor the lamp, nor the physical lights. Every light is known by that light. We call it as a light because it illumines. Therefore, the buddhigrahim thus means recognition occurs at the level of the buddhi, not below it in the sensory level, not abstractly as concept through the inner instruments, through emotions, feelings and thoughts, but in the buddhi's most direct, transparent, most self-effacing mode. When buddhi has become so pure and still, it is no longer aware of itself as an instrument, but has become the very transparent through which it recognizes itself. Words fall short of explaining the process because words cannot go there. Still, it needs to be explained. Because this very moment, That is what we are all. We are that light at the buddhi level. We are Atma. When we say I am Aham, Brahmasmi, etc., it is only to bring in a understanding that we are not what we think we are. But how do we know who we are? The training of the mind is required. That is why this yoga is so important. Because the veti, the word, means knows, is aware of, recognizes. The yukta yogin veti means the yogi or the sadhaka or the person who has done the meditation has and has mastered the method of turning inward, realizes, veti, knows. This atyantika atindriya sukha, that means atyantika means boundless, atindriya means trans-sensory, happiness, or the nature in which the knowing itself is not a cognitive art in the ordinary sense of the knowing a subject. I don't know, I am repeating it so many times, you may think, why am I repeating it? Because I want the mind to be trained to turn inward. So the Atman, self-knowing as its own object of cognition, recognizing its own nature as Ananda, Sukham. This is the Vijnana which has been mentioned earlier, Jnana Vijnana, Triptatma. The word Tripta means happiness, satiated. It is a direct, immediate, non-mediated self-recognition of consciousness as its own nature, which is Sukham, bliss. This is the same thing which is being mentioned in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Anando Brahmedi Vejanat. One who has done this, he recognized Ananda as Brahman. And this Atyantika Sukha even transcends the Anandamaya Kosha. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, we said that we have 5 sheets. That is the Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. That is the food sheath, the vital air sheath, the mental sheath, the intellectual sheath, and the bliss sheath or the Anandamaya Kosha. But this Ananda, it is the Atma's own Ananda which is beyond the Anandamaya Kosha. It is not a sheath covering the Atman, but the Atman's intrinsic nature recognized as Ananda. Therefore, the absolutely unlimited, because there is never a time this knowing principle is not present in us. Even in the deep sleep, it is knowing itself, saying knowing nothingness. So when the entire limiting structure of objectified knowledge transcends itself,
The sensory knowledge cannot reach those positions. That is why the very separation mechanism with which the body, with the mind has been operating, or the intellect has been operating, with the separation of, object to object, body, mind, intellect, etc. All of them are absent in that happiness. This verse is, even though a phalashruti or a fruit of meditation, gives us enough fodder for doing the Shravana Manana. Look at your own intellect or in your own mind. You cannot find Atma somewhere else. Atma is nowhere else. The very intellect with which we are knowing everything is Atma. It is the one which says, I am the body, mind, intellect complex. And at the same time, we know it is the body, mind, intellect complex is objectifiable. So it is that which now get to be replaced with the very nature of the intellect. What is the nature of the intellect? The knowing principle. And what is that knowing? Think about it. We'll continue this thinking tomorrow in the next two verses, which I would like to complete tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Happy Guru Purnima to all of you once again. Over to you, Prakash.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Binduji. Big pranams to you and Guru Purnima pranams. So I've opened the chat and hand raising. If there are any follow-up discussions, I think Revati Madam is coming up.
Pranam
Namaste,
Bintaji.
Pranam.
Shubh Guru Purnima. Thank you for your guidance. Thank you.
Thank you, Revati.
Binduji, in the last 10 minutes, your audio quality became different. It became somewhat, it's almost like a light bulb going. It became a lot clearer, but there was an initial dip in volume. Did something change?
I had an incoming call, which I refused.
Okay, because there was a change.
That changed the audio quality.
Yes. When you listen to the replay, you can see it. The last about less than 10-15 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I had noticed it. I would have. I was looking at whether my signal is coming or not. But since I saw the signal is coming, then I didn't bother about it. Otherwise, I would have gone out and come back again.
There was a dip, but the audio quality somehow became clearer. I don't know. It's almost like you were in my room.
That's good.
Okay,
we all see tomorrow then?
Yes.
The shift was there in your voice, but clearance is also there.
Okay.
It almost appeared like the Guru appeared in the room, Binduji.
It's all Gurus It's all Guru's blessings for all of us.
Yes, yes, Binduji. So if there are no further questions, I think we will meet tomorrow at the same time, 6:30 a.m. IST. So I think on this Guru Purnima day, the session was so, I don't know, I felt it so brilliant in terms of clarity for me. So I'm going to definitely do Sravana Manana and come back with the understanding of how this insight coming from the intellect is so resolved. And I think today I felt the clarity. It might be just me. Maybe you're repeating it over and over. But I think that's the benefit of Sravana Manana, isn't it, Binduji?
Yes. The more we listen to it, the lesser will be our tendency for apprehending wrong information or wrong knowledge.
Yes. And then on that note, thank you everyone for coming, and for Revati who came up and wished Binduji Guru Purnima. So Guru Purnima blessings and greetings for everyone. And over to you, Binduji, to close the room.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Revati. And thank you each and every one of you who have been there to share the Guru Purnima day with me. And a very important verse in the Bhagavad Gita, which normally is not, dealt so elaborately. So listen to that again. It will be helpful for, clarifying our lot of doubts. We'll continue this journey tomorrow in the similar lines. So see you all tomorrow at the same time. Hari Om. Have a good day.
Hari Om, Binduji.
Hari Om. Have a good day.